left, right, out. I probably look like I've been hit by a train, had some vehicle issues, and I've been, instead of paying thousands of dollars to do it, I'm doing it myself. Now I'm awaiting parts. Long story. Um, if you haven't been paying attention, remember what I told you when I gave you the documents in the last video about the biolabs, which is now the undersecretary has come out. Newland, I believe is her name. She mentioned it. She was questioned by Senator Rubio. And then today, the Senate panel had some folks on from the intelligence community talking about it. I'm sitting in my bed, yes. But the interesting thing about it is they're kind of setting that up now. Now that they admitted it, of course, it was considered fake news. Till then, and even Psaki's still talking about it as fake news, right? Or fake news or misinformation. But we know that this stuff is factual. But here's what they were doing in the testimony, from what I've heard, is that they were saying that, well, it's really not, they're really not doing any testing. It's just, yeah, they help with security or whatever, these facilities. Not the case. And I showed you, if you look at my last video with those links, you can pull up some of the documentation, the history of these labs. It goes back significantly, I think 2005 or something like that. And I think Obama might even have some role to play in that, but in those documents it goes to the history, and it really kicks up. And I'm going to read just some of this stuff because they were saying that it's pretty inept. There's no real military application of that or nefarious actions. Well, let's just take a few of these. So I'm going to go first. There was military experiments on biting insects out of the Lungar Center. Remember, I mentioned that too. That's out of Georgia, which is on the border of Ukraine and then Dagestan. So they were trying to utilize these little flies, apparently see if they can transmit diseases for a form of biological warfare. Apparently they got out around there, and there's some mysterious rashes that were occurring around the institute there, and even in Dagestan in Russia. So Ukraine, Russia, Georgia had experienced these little weird, almost, what do they call them? Sand flea type things. And anyway, so they were either released or they got out of the lab, and they were spreading some sort of innocuous type disease that caused a rash or whatnot. But they call this, 2014 Lungar Center equipped with an insect facility and launched Project Raise Awareness about barcoding of sand flies in Georgia and the Caucasus. The project covered a larger geographic area outside of Georgia. 2014-15 sandfly species was collected underneath this project. Surveillance of acute febrile illness. I mean, that's one thing. So anyway, then they have maps on here. If you look up that document, there goes the Vet Today or whatever they have. It's mapped out, and they show where these found these little sandflies in relation to that institute, and then even has a document here talking about them and where they got them and essentially what they were doing with them, right? So you also have insect flies tested to bite humans, Operation Whitecoat. That one was a little bit further in the 70s, but so there's something that's similar to that. There's also a study on how they could possibly use mosquitoes. Apparently there's a report, or they're showing how the U.S. has done this kind of stuff before, and they were seeing how they can kill, here it goes, the Pentagon, how to kill 625,000 people for just 29 cents a death. Got it down to the, almost a quarter. Just after inflation nowadays, is probably more like $1, if they actually do that. So you got Operation Big Itch, Operation Big Buzz. You just can go through all this mosquito operations, right? Operation Mayday. I mean, there's a lot of mosquito type things. And here you have this Operation Mayday. Some sort of mosquitoes were dispersed throughout ground methods in Georgia, USA during Army. There's all that's just here. Anyway, this is kind of going through this history of what led to these biolabs. So let's go down here a little bit here. Pentagon research on Russian anthrax. Here. So near one of the labs, if you can pull up there's a list of different pathogens that they were studying with. Now we're going to get into a few things. I want to keep it short like I always do, but you can look up this document, like I said. So anytime they're feeding you crap, which we know that eventually they'll have to, the real false information is coming from the people in the mainstream media. Anyway, here we go. 34 people intentionally infected with Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever in Georgia. And that's not Georgia, U.S. That's Georgia, where the Longarian Center is, on the border of Ukraine. Here we go. Crimean, it was called CCHF, is caused by an infection through a tick-borne virus. The disease was first characterized in Crimea in 1944, given the name Crimean hemorrhagic fever. Anyway, there's 2014, 34 people became infected with it, of which 3 died. The same year, Pentagon biologists studied the virus in Georgia under the DTR project, Epidemiology of Febrile Illness Caused by Dengue Viruses and Other Ambroviruses in Georgia. The project included tests on patients with fever symptoms, collection of ticks and some other vectors for the CCH lab analysis. But it just so happens that some of these little outbreaks were occurring near where these labs were, right? Let's keep going. Military Biolab blamed for deadly CCHF outbreak in Afghanistan. 237 cases also reported across Afghanistan. 41 of them. The point being is that we're the ones that it's either release or these things get accidentally released into different areas, and it might not. I'm not saying it's directly us, but these happen to be Pentagon funded biolabs, or whatever we're doing in some of these other countries like China for some reason, our enemies. Pentagon studies bats. They're studying reservoir hosts for Ebola virus and MERS. These things have been studied under the DTR. So I mean, this is setting up for what we're getting into. So they do this all over the world, right? So here we go. Pentagon Biolaboratory spread diseases in Ukraine. So this is what I was getting to. So if you look at some of this stuff, the correlation between some of these outbreaks and some of these labs is beyond what we can say to write off, let's just say. So the DoD Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, has funded 11 biolaboratories in the former Soviet country of Ukraine bordering on Russia, and that's in this document here, which I, obviously I'm doing this on a small camera, but I posted this in the last video, and I guess I'll put it on this one too. You can go through it yourself. But this is our own documents. I know the Russians have released the ones directly from Ukraine that corroborate a lot of this. So, you can say that that's Russian propaganda, but when you have you have a history of one thing, and then they try to scrub it, but people have kept it, and then it cross-references with this other thing from a whole nother a whole nother country and a whole nother type of written language. It tends to check out a little bit. I give it a little more credence than just Jen Psaki up there flapping her gums. We keep going down. This document's pretty extensive. You can read through it. There's 2005 agreement between U.S. DOD and the Ministry of Health in Ukraine. It's right here. Bam. There's the document. They got it even highlighted in red in this thing. So I know people are kind of reporting on this. I'd let you know, this is from February 24th, when whoever this guy put this together before then threw this out there before this invasion. And that's what I've been telling you for days. And then now, guys like Pazovic and all these other guys are on it, which is good, because I'm glad, because, not too many people watch me, but if they watch them and you actually get the real information out there, it's great. It doesn't matter as long as it gets out there. So near some of these labs, here's one. So 364 Ukrainians dead with swine flu. Just so happens that the lab right there, had the same strain of swine flu, right? They were studying it. Police investigate infection with an incurable disease. So it just so happens that there is a biolab that has hepatitis A. It just so happens that there's a hepatitis A outbreak near this lab. 37 people dead of hepatitis A in whatever 2018. Summer 2017, 60 people dead. Hepatitis A. Ukraine and Russia hit with new highly virulent cholera infection. Just so happens that's one of the diseases that be in one of these, there is in one of these biolabs. Coincidence? I don't know. I think not. And you keep going. Okay, so then we get into the point where, here we go, lobbying for Jeff Sessions, $250,000, research for U.S. intelligence. Police investigate botulism toxin poisoning in Ukraine. Just so happens that they were studying some botulism stuff in there. 12 dead. And then they go into this botulism stuff of how deadly it can possibly get, and especially that's why it's being studied by the Pentagon in these biolabs. Pentagon produces live viruses, bacteria, and toxins. Here we go. There's the documents there. Go through it, what they had, what they're doing. And then it goes into more like the Fort Detrick, the Dungway Proving Grounds, some of these other things that the U.S. Army operates, and kind of these other testing facilities. But it's all there. I'm just showing you that this was one of the first things that was to leak as a possible, as a conspiracy theory. It's now been proven fact, even though the government has denied it at first, or they scrubbed their website with the documents that link them off the embassy website. Then they denied it. Then somebody spilled the beans and sent a testimony. Then why they're still denying it. Then they're kind of acknowledged, well, yeah, but then they deny having the pathogens and that they were just doing this. So soon they'll just fess up, oh yeah, well, there's pathogens, blah, blah, blah. But hopefully like the Russians said, hopefully they will be destroyed. Hopefully they're not going to be used. And hopefully either they're destroyed or gone, right? Oh, Pentagon labs at the epicenter of Ebola crisis. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just there so happens a lot of these outbreaks happen to be near these biolabs. Granted, there's a lot of biolabs running around there, but you wonder why we're funding so many different biolabs in different various parts of the world, and have 11 of them strung across Ukraine. And then it just so happens the Russians are complaining about kind of stuff. Just so happens that some of these diseases that leak out of there affect the people of that region. Anyway, I will talk to you later. Peace.